This cute little fire pit is the Blue Sky Pike, and it's touted as being ultra portable and smokeless. So would this thing work well for hiking and camping or tailgating, or is it just too small to be functional? How easy is it to burn wood in here? And is it really smokeless? We're going to learn all of the answers today because we're going to test this tiny little Pike fire pit from Blue Sky. We're going to unbox it, we're going to burn wood, we're going to do a little experiment, and we're going to burn pellets. So let's go find out if this thing lives up to all of its claims. I'm getting fit. The Blue Sky Pike comes just like this in this little box, which gives you a clue right away about how tiny this thing is going to be. On the front, they show it ablaze in all its glory with this book next to it. You can travel with this thing and be worldly. On the top, they have a father and son making s'mores, and on the side, they have a mom and daughter walking on the beach with their little pike in a carrying case. So it's very cute. It's like an American Girl doll fire pit. So now let's cut it open. Cut it away from you. I'm trying to remember. It's really hard to do though. Forget it. Instruction manual. Okay, I am going to say this probably a million times, and I don't know what it is about small things, but it's just so cute. So besides the manual, there are only 3 things in here. This is the bottom and the ash catcher. This is the burn chamber, and it just fits on top of the bottom piece, just like that. It literally just sits there. And then this is the carrying case. It's pretty nice. This whole fire pit weighs 6 pounds. It is about 10 inches in diameter, and the burn chamber itself is only about 7 3/4 inches in diameter. It's 10 inches tall, and it's all steel construction. This fire pit is designed to be smokeless, but with such a small pit, I'm not really sure you'd get that much smoke anyway. And the way this works is there are holes all the way around the burn chamber, and this top piece has a hollow section around the outside. And there's holes all the way around the inside at the top. So how this is supposed to work is oxygen is sucked in through these holes, gets heated up as it moves up the burn chamber, and then shoots out these top holes superheated, which is supposed to annihilate any particles that would otherwise come out as smoke. Pike Fire Pit has a 3-year limited warranty, which means it only covers if a weld would break or something would snap off of the fire pit and make it unusable. It does not cover if the paint flakes or if rust appears on the pipe. This fire pit is available from Amazon, and I will have a link to that in the description. So we've unboxed it, we've looked at all the parts, so now let's go burn some stuff. Just a little stuff. I set up the pike and it's ready to go. It might look kind of silly on this galvanized bucket. I really didn't have anything else to set it on lying around, but it could sit in a driveway or on a parking lot. The instructions didn't say don't set it directly on grass or obviously anything that you could start on fire. To get this thing lit, I'm going to use stump chunks. It's a natural fire starter. I'm actually just going to put maybe 1 handful of stump chunks in the bottom. The next thing I'm going to do is start adding my wood pieces. This fire pit is small, and the directions say to try to keep all the wood below the holes at the top of the fire pit to ensure that it can be as smokeless as it can be. So we'll see. And I'm going to try to light the kindling underneath these tiny, also kindle-like pieces of firewood, and to see how easily this thing lights or not. Well, I think it started really easy, and I did throw on just a few more little pieces of wood. This little thing does put out some heat. I had to scoot my chair back a little bit. It was a little too hot in my face. My initial thoughts about this Blue Sky Pike is that I'm seeing a lot of that secondary burn coming from that top ring of holes in the burn chamber that Blue Sky talks about. This has to do with their smokeless design. I'm not seeing it so much now, but a few minutes ago, there were a lot of flames shooting from those holes. As far as smoke goes, I am seeing a little bit of smoke. I'm smelling a little bit of smoke. I did spend a moment in the smoke trail, as long as I could stand from the heat, just to see how much smoke was coming out. I know it did smell a little bit, but it's not a lot, which I kind of wondered because it is such a small fire pit. There's not a lot of wood in there burning, so not a lot of wood, not as much smoke. Being so tiny, I am kind of curious to see how hot this thing gets on the outside. So I've got my infrared thermometer and we're gonna find out. It looks like the top of the burn chamber is about 350 degrees, around there. The bottom piece is also pretty hot, 315 degrees. What I'm really curious about is the metal underneath. Now, the metal that isn't even near the fire is 100 and, gosh, it's a hot day. It's like around 150 degrees, let's say. So keep that in mind. but underneath the fire pit, between 250 and 270. I didn't add any more wood than what you already saw to the pike, and it's already out. So that amount of wood lasted about 15 minutes before the fire extinguished itself. That gives you a little indication about how much wood you might need for a longer fire. And now I wanted to try something a little different, because the great thing about this fire pit is that you can take it on a walk, you can take it on a hike, you can take it where you want to go. So I want to make a fire with kind of real world conditions. So instead of using little pieces of kindling that I cut kind of specifically for the pike, I'm going to use sticks and leaves. I'm going to crunch up some leaves and put them in the bottom just as a fire starter. And then I'm going to put some sticks in there and see if it'll burn. I have no idea if this is going to work or not, so we're going to find out. Trying to be careful because it's still hot in there. Okay, that's not very pretty, but probably a real world scenario. Yeah, add some grass. Flo is a failure, and probably every survivalist watching this is shaking their head in disbelief and shame. So I cleaned up that little disaster. Once the wood fire went out in the pike, it only took 30 minutes before it was cool enough to touch. And now I can get ready for the pellet burn. So how I picked my pellets was simple. I just picked some cheap ones, because if you're not smoking meat, why buy expensive pellets? So I have these Pit Boss pellets. I'll have a link to this in the description as well. The instructions said to add about 2 inches of pellets to the pike to get it started. We're gonna say that's about 2 inches. For the starter, I'm going to use the same stump chunks, and there'll also be links to these in the description. I'm just gonna stick 1 handful in the corner. And now let's light her up. You're not eating the cancery parts. Using the pellets for fuel, you can definitely see that secondary burn happening with the flames coming through that top row holes. I kind of like it. The pellets are for sure burning hotter than the wood, which makes sense because pellets are just really compressed fuel. But I can tell a difference in the heat from here. But one thing that's really interesting is that I don't smell any smoke at all, as in none. It actually has a really nice smell. I stood in the smoke trail for a second and there was actually no smoke to be found. So if having a smoke-free fire is really important to you, the pellets are definitely the way to go. Ooh, I'm curious to see the temperature difference between burning pellets and burning wood. The burn chamber when using pellets is about 330-ish degrees. The bottom piece is about 100 degrees, and underneath about 91 degrees. I didn't add any pellets to this after the original 2 inches that we added, and it lasted around 30 minutes. So that can give you an indication of how many pellets you can take along with you, depending on how long you want your fire to be. Cleanup is pretty easy with this pike because there's really not that much ash left over. We've got a little bit in the burn chamber and just a little bit in the ash catcher. So I'm just gonna go dump those in my compost pile. Putting this thing in the carrying case is really easy. You just put the bottom piece in the top piece, and then you stick it in the bag. It's really nice, and you can cinch it up. This is really easy to sling over your shoulder, and it doesn't feel heavy at all. I could even fit this in a backpack if I wanted to make it easier to carry, like if you're going on a walk or a hike or wherever you're going with a backpack, the beach. The strap is adjustable, and they're telling the truth when they say this thing is ultra portable. So let's talk pros and cons for the Blue Sky Pike. If I had to pick a couple cons for this, I would say, for one, it was a really short fire. That doesn't have to be a con. You might want a really short fire. It isn't a very big fire pit. You can always add more fuel to it, obviously. But just know with something this size, you're continuously going to be adding fuel to keep it going. Maybe a con, maybe not. Another con, in my experience at least, is that burning wood in the pike wasn't completely smokeless. There was some smoke, but it was just a little. I mean, there's hardly anything burning in here anyway, so it was just a little smoke. But it absolutely was not enough to bother me, and it wouldn't deter me from using it at all. I actually found a lot of pros to this little fire pit. I had no idea what to expect, and it's so tiny that it's just cute, and I didn't know, is this even gonna make a real fire? It was capable of making a real fire, especially with the wood pellets. It definitely put out a lot of heat, so if you do want your hands warm, do you want to roast a marshmallow? It is absolutely capable of that. Another pro to this fire pit is it does have that dual fuel capability. So even though I didn't think the wood was completely smokeless, you still have the option to use pellets or wood, which is kind of nice. And I think one of the biggest pros of this fire pit is the extreme portability. This puts out a lot of heat in a really small package. I think it's 6 pounds. So you can easily take it with you. And it comes with that carrying bag in the box. So you can absolutely throw this in your car, sling it over your shoulder to go on a walk. I think it's kind of cute and I really liked using it. But if this fire pit is a little bit too small for you, yet you want something portable, this is the video for you.